Hello, everyone. This is Bob Treemore. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I have with me Shaq. Shaq is someone who I've known on Twitter for probably a few years. And what I wanted to do is, I know Shaq bought the Peloton Row. And so I just wanted to have an open conversation, no hidden motives. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm not trying to say it's good or bad. In fact, I have not even asked Shaq yet whether he likes it or dislikes it. So we are about to have an open and honest conversation with a Peloton Row owner, and we'll see where it goes. So Shaq, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Happy to be here, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you. You and I have known each other or DM'd each other and tweeted a little bit here and there for a few years. But I know you got the row. Did you get the row? Did you pre-order the row or did you get it later on?
I did.
So
No, I
blind.
pre-ordered it. Yeah, and you know what? I didn't pre-order it like the first day. I gave it a couple days to kind of ruminate on it.
Yeah.
But as is usually the case, when Peloton puts out a new piece of hardware, I eventually, succumbed to, to the excitement, and I think I ordered it like maybe early October, so a couple weeks
Okay.
after they had opened it up for pre-ordering.
And that's perfect timing because I'm looking at where you're sitting. And I don't know if everyone can see it on the, I have a little bit of a wider view on the screen I'm looking at than what people can see on YouTube. But you have the row, you have the, is that the bike or the bike plus? That's the bike, right? The OG?
So I have the old school bike, and then I have the Tread Plus.
Oh gosh. Let's not even get into the Tread Plus. That's ridiculous ownership claims that I wish I could make on the Tread Plus. So we'll skip the bike, we'll skip the Tread Plus. Hopefully by the end of 2023, if everything goes right, Bob Treemore will own a Tread Plus. That is the plan, Jack. Call for
We'll make it happen,
Treemore.
one way or the other.
Barry just needs to help me out just a little bit, and I'll write him a check. All right, so the row. You pre-ordered the row a couple weeks after the announcement. Um, let's just we'll start quickly at the beginning. Then I wanted to just get in your honest assessment. Delivery pretty fast, and once they started delivering in early December, how soon did you get it?
Yeah, so in Vegas, I don't know if it's because of distribution from California or what it is, but I've always gotten very prompt deliveries of hardware whenever I've ordered it. So the bike, the tread, the row all came like if the bike and the tread were not pre-orders, but they came within like a week.
Yeah.
The row came, I think I was the first day, so it was like November 8th or
Yeah.
something. And they were here 8, 9 in the morning. Did a great job, came in, put it together within 15 minutes, and they were out of here. And so I had a great experience with the logistics and the
Yeah.
delivery and the assembly. There were some folks that I saw where the seat was getting put on backwards, or they've had some issues with the hub. Some people
The
have had to have
flywheel
the hub
part? Is that the flywheel
replaced.
part? The
That's
hub?
right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. And as you saw probably, well, you tried it out in the
Yeah,
store,
I did.
and you talked about how silent it was. And so a couple folks, after using it several times, it started generating some noise. And so they made videos and sent them into Peloton. And I know some hubs have been replaced, but I haven't had any problems with mine. Delivery was smooth, no qualms with any of that.
Was it XPO or JB Hunt? Who'd you get it from?
I think it was XBO. And yeah, they did a really good job, showed up on time,
All right.
no complaints.
Okay. All right. So let me. I have a number of questions, but let me first. Is this your first? Are you a first time rower owner of any description?
That's right.
Okay.
So, as you may recall, you and I had a number of discussions about the Hydrow,
Yes.
and they almost reeled me in with some of those holiday promotions. I was, I got text messages and emails from them for so long because I
Oh,
was so close to pulling the
so
trigger.
close, sir.
But at the end of the day, I knew that once Peloton released their rower, I would end up getting it, and so that was kind of the motivation to hold off on the Hydrow. I also looked at the Ergatta.
Yeah,
And my issue with that was I was concerned about just being like straight gamification. Um,
yeah,
I grew up with Atari. I was raised on
yeah.
video games, but at the end of the day, like haven't played video games in 20, 25 years. And so I was a little concerned about that.
And so,
So this was my first rowing experience.
and the concept too. And I remember you and I going back on Hydro because both of us were like, "Oh, we think Peloton's eventually going to have something, but this Hydro looks really cool." But you wanted a connected fitness machine because you already had the Tread Plus, you already had the OG bike from Peloton, and so Concept Two, which is one of the most go-to brands out there for rowers. You mentioned Ergatta, you mentioned Hydro. It really, Concept Two didn't even really enter your mind. And then on the back burner, you were like, "Please, Peloton, bring it out eventually."
Yeah, I mean the concept too, I think about that as like the machine that people have in the depths of their basement, the dark, wet basement. And you go down there and you just like eke out 45 minutes of pain. It's a very sort of bare bones machine. Now it is the standard
Yeah.
of like rowing machine. People swear by it. But yes, I wanted a connected fitness product and I've been using Peloton for 5+ years. And so I was really kind of holding off as much as I could, hoping they would release the rower.
Okay. All right. So here we're into it now. So let me just ask you. You've
Mm-hmm.
had it for, you got it in early December, January. You've had it
Yeah,
for,
3 months.
okay, 3 months. What do you think?
It is an outstanding piece of hardware, much like the other Peloton equipment that we've come to know. I will say this, the sort of easiest way to put it is I would not want it as my only piece of Peloton hardware equipment. It there there are only so many different things you can do on a rowing machine. It's similar to the bike, but it doesn't even allow some of the more soul cycle-ish or other interesting programming that's taught with the bike where
On the bike, you can
you
like
kind of
stand
just got to.
up and get energized. On
Yeah,
the tread, you can move the
right.
incline up or down and get energized. On the row, it's a little bit of a more of a static. You get one kind of motion, and then you could speed that motion up or speed the motion down. But I understand. I see what you're saying. The variety isn't necessarily there in a row,
Mhm.
which is why you're saying it may not be the best as your only machine.
Right. It's more limiting from a programming perspective. And I have seen some users say they're going to return it within the 30-day window because they didn't feel the content was as exciting as it is on the bike or the tread. That said, I think it is a tremendous complement to the other pieces of equipment. And I will say this, I think if you have a tread, but you don't have the bike, uh, the row is maybe something that I would advise more so than the bike. It the tread or the tread plus, it's more of a impact cardio machine. You're
Yeah.
running. It's not a low impact exercise, and so if you want to continue to advance your cardio, that's where you can either bring in cycling or you can bring in rowing because both of them are excellent cardio workouts, but they're low impact. And so you're not putting that strain on your knees or your ankles. And so it's an excellent complement in that aspect. The other thing I would add is just the more modalities that you add, whether it's the bike, the tread, the row, the guide, just taking the regular strength classes. it just adds more variations that you can do. So every week when I sort of plan out my workout
Yeah.
routines, I've found that as I add a piece of equipment, it just sort of exponentially enhances my experience because I can add so much variation over the course of time, which for me, it kind of keeps me from getting bored. It keeps me from,
Yeah.
it keeps me committed and sort of on the bandwagon, so to speak.
So we'll come back to the row here in a second, but so in your typical week, what have you found
Mhm.
now that you've had it for 3 months and you've had the bike and the tread for longer? What kind of mix are you happy with as far as the
Yeah,
tread,
so
yeah, versus all three machines?
I'm 2 to 3 days on the row. The tread is sort of my base machine or
Okay.
my anchor piece of hardware. And I do a number of different routines on that. We won't get into that. But I supplement those routines with work on the row. I get sucked into these Peloton challenges, monthly challenges, like many of us do. And the challenge for the row is pretty hard.
Is
Like
that right?
for for bronze, it's 20,000 meters. For silver, I want to say it's 40,000 meters, and for gold, it's 60,000 meters. And so I found that about, I want to say, 2 hours, 3 hours a week kind of puts me on
Yeah.
target for that 60,000 meter goal.
So
And
let's put that brief.
also,
It's interesting. Let's put that in
okay.
perspective real quick for the bike people, because the bike, I think most people are familiar with, and the goals on the bike are you get your bronze at like 50 miles, and on a typical ride, a half-hour ride, you probably get 6 to 10 miles depending upon how hard you're working. On a row where you're saying bronze is at 20,000 meters, how many meters do you get in a typical row session?
Yeah, this is a great way to think about it. So I generally put up about, I want to say, a mile every 3 minutes on the bike. So for a 30-minute ride,
Right,
I'm about 10
about 10
miles,
miles.
45, 15 miles. And so for that bronze medal for 50 miles, that would be what, 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Um, and so with the row, I want to say I just did today a 30-minute row and I put up about 6,000
Okay.
meters.
Okay.
I did a 15 and I put up a little over 3,000. So, you know, 6,000 meters. So you'd have to do 10 times a half hour. So about 5 hours to get the gold and a third of that to get. So it's
Sure.
similar, I think, is the point as the bike.
So the challenge and the badging are very similar or relatable to the badging on the tread and the bike. It's that you can similar metrics after 100 rows, after X number of meters is very
Yes.
very similar. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. I will say, for whatever reason, I do much better on the row than I do on the bike in terms of the leaderboard. And so my efforts on the row are not the same as they're on the bike. And so it may be that you can reach some of these thresholds a little easier on the bike than you can on the row. But in terms of all the badging and all the challenges and everything, they're duplicating what they've done kind of with previous modalities and work and doing what works.
Yeah. So we've hit comparative. Let me ask you, I want to hit
Mhm.
at least two other, and we'll probably go into two other additional discussions, but let me go into two specific areas. One is I'd like your specific feedback on your perspective on the quality of the hardware of the row. And then after that, we'll talk about the content and instructors. So let me ask you, you have the row in your house, you've used it for 2 or 3 months. You've talked a little bit previously about how others viewed it as silent, or as you viewed it as silent. Others had noise, the seat and whatnot. But what is your perspective from nuts to bolts, from screen to handle to setup to space it occupies? What's your assessment of the hardware?
It's great. I think it's a very well built machine. They do. allow for, this is Scout, by the way, making an
Scout.
appearance. The option to stow up on the wall is very helpful. I don't need to do it because I've kind of got it in this room set up, but it's really good. I will say this. It's fairly similar as what I would say the Tread Plus is. I haven't used the Bike Plus, but for what I've seen, on YouTube and on Peloton's website, it seems about on par with the Bike Plus. Now, one of the major kind of advancements that I think Peloton has made is they've got this form indicator on the row. And so it's kind of something that connects the software to the hardware. They did a very good job understanding that a lot of people that bought this machine may very well have never used a rowing machine like myself.
Yeah.
And so what they do when you first use it is you do a calibration. And what the calibration does is it has like a little robot figure, but it mimics through sensors on the handle and otherwise kind of what your position is and what it should be. And I found just through my participation in Facebook groups and other social media that form indicator has been critical for people understanding what it is they should be doing and how to utilize correct form before they just go nuts and try to hit all these metrics. And what that's done is I think it's taught people how to use the machine correctly, and it's taught them how to use it safely. And so then as they progress through other programming, they're able to do it in a way where they're not walking away with back aches or knee aches or whatever.
So what was your personal experience? You got it in the house. You have not owned a row before. Mm-hmm. When you sat down, because when I went to the store and I did the row, honestly, I between you and me, I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to. I had Elizabeth there helping me, and I was trying to impress Elizabeth. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I just move this back and forward. My knees go up and down. I'm good to go. It's a great machine. I love it. But honestly, I had no idea if I was doing it right or not. And at the time, they literally just finished setting up in the showroom. The little robot guy you were talking about wasn't even there. So when you got it in your house, I guess on a scale of 1 to 100, how was your form, and how long did it take you to get to something close to 100?
Yeah, so they give it to you in a percentage format, and they break it down across like 4 different segments or components of the row. Initially, I think I have like something in the 70s.
Okay.
Within 2 or 3 rows, I was like high 80s, low 90s.
Oh, wow.
I have kind of one weakness, which is fairly common, and that's like I open up too early. I essentially start to pull back with my body and my arms maybe before my legs are fully extended. But now I'm to the point where I'm, 95+% every time. And I don't even need to look at it if I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
But just to finish, the hardware quality, the one thing that I would mention is the handle of the row. From what I've heard and seen in reviews and comparisons to other machines, Peloton's handle is like kind of a sticky, rubbery kind of feel to it. And a lot of us that have been using it and talking in the Facebook groups have started to get like blisters and calluses in our hands. Yeah, and it's not, the instructors are very, they talk about, they hit on like, don't kill the handle, don't grip the handle too tight. But if you're really going on this machine, like, there's just no way around it. It seems like a lot of people beat up their hands a little bit. So if you have, wimpy white collar hands like me, it's taken a little. It's actually held me back from probably using it a little more. And so a lot of people have gone to gloves. I was told very early on that my significant other would come to appreciate my
Oh,
calloused
okay. All right.
hands,
Okay.
but that remains to be seen. So, but otherwise, the quality of the machine is top notch, and it's
Beautiful.
what you would expect from the other machines.
And it has a bigger screen like your Tread Plus does, is right? Than the OG bike.
Not quite like the Tread Plus, not
Okay.
so the Tread Plus's screen is massive, but I think it's on par with the Bike Plus.
Yeah.
So my bike's I think maybe 21 or 24 inches. I think the new ones are like 28. It's the same as the Bike Plus.
So let me. You're not going to be able to see this, Shaq, but I'm going to throw up. I've got the pricing here, and I don't want to necessarily get into a price. We could talk about price to value ratio maybe a little bit, but which it looks like it starts around $31.95, and then there's packages that add the weights and the mats and all the etc. Did you get the
Right.
base, or what did you get some of these packages?
I think I got like the second tier. I already have the weights. And I've bought enough of this stuff at this point where I
Yeah,
know, well, where like I have so many mats and, um, you know, I do have, and you can kind of see it behind me. There's a long mat that is unique to the
to
Row
the
just
row.
because of the sheer length of it,
It's 8 feet
of the
long. Yeah.
machine. Yes. And so, I have a special mat for that, but it's not needed. If
No.
if you have hardwood floors or if you have a hard surface floor, it's certainly not needed. If you put it on carpet, I suspect you would want it. But
And
I
so,
think the base package or the kind of like second package is probably all you need, unless
yeah.
you really want to get into the Row boot camps and
Right.
whatnot.
I think we will part on this video, perhaps on the value prop. On let's just say you paid $31.95, and of course you're in a unique position. You have some other equipment available to you, but still,
Mhm.
your opinion matters. That's why we're talking to you. Let me go back to this. I'm going to take you off, and we're going to talk about content. Now on the screen now, I've got the 5 instructors. What we got? Wilpie. We have I forget her. Katie. Alex,
Mhm.
Ash, and Adrian, right?
Mhm.
Adrian was he brought on the row and the screen and the promo stuff that came out of Peloton. Alex was added a little bit later, as well as Ash. Katie, I have almost no familiarity with, and of course Wilpie. Who doesn't love Wilpie? Wilpie's
Right.
iconic at Peloton. What's your perspective? And I have one other screen here. Let me see if I can find it. And I'm also showing, because this is fairly recent, they've added scenic rows, which Hydrow,
Mhm.
that's the kind of thing that really drew me in with Hydrow, is these wide open spaces. Because in everything, whether we're talking about Soul Cycle, whether we're talking about um, Beachbody or Peloton, honestly, I feel a little bit claustrophobic because I'm always inside this 20 by 20 room, and they can change the content, but it's still always a 20 by 20 dark room, and I'm like, get me out of this room. And I would see the Hydro stuff, their advertisements, and I'm like, oh, it's outside. It's so gorgeous. Oh, why can't more content? And the bike has some scenic stuff. Tread has some scenic stuff. But I would love for them to integrate that more into the routine. But let's just talk about content. Let me go back. We'll talk about instructors, and then we'll talk about content. Do you have? And I'm poorly trying to find where I kept this instructor photo. I've got the 5 instructors up. What are your go-tos?
So Alex is my go-to, and
Or
he
Alex?
as
Oh, Alec. Oh, the
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Olympian guy. Okay. All right.
Karwoski, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So Alex is a like world-class rower, and he's been, he was uh, his brother, as some of you may know, actually is a instructor for Hydrow.
Mm,
And so, he comes from a rowing family. He's been rowing since he was a like junior high school
yeah.
student or something. And so, he is technically probably the most knowledgeable of all the instructors, but he also has like a very kind of quirky, almost like Dennis personality.
Yeah.
He loves music. And so his classes are just really laid back and fun and enjoyable. But he also brings with it like the
The technical
technical.
side, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Ash also comes from a rowing background. So Ash and Alex are the two that were actually rowers before the launch of the rower. And Ash is also tremendous. I enjoy her content. She has a very feisty sort of attitude about her.
Yeah,
Um, Wilpers is exactly what you would expect. He's
yeah.
like, Mr. Technical, talk you through the whole programming and the routine and whatnot. Very similar to how he is on the bike and the
Yeah.
tread. Um, Katie is actually a lot of fun. She's from the Bay Area, not a rower previously, but she's like high energy, loves EDM music. So
Okay.
if you like that kind of music, she's kind of your go-to. And then finally, Adrian is Adrian. He's just like a complete madman on the thing.
Is he is all right.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you take a boot camp with Adrian, you're dead. And he's, he also has a taste in music that I identify with quite a bit. And so Adrian's like my guy
Yeah.
for all modalities. Well, obviously not the bike, but the tread and the boot camps and strength. But you know what? The roster that they put together is top notch. I don't know who it is that finds their instructors, but whomever
It's
that
just
person is
tremendous.
continues to do an
Just
outstanding job.
tremendous. Let me ask you this. Here's a off the wall question. Because you have tread and you have bike, of all the entire roster, they have 50, 60 people. I don't know if you have the international people show on
Mhm.
yours. I have even the international people. Charlotte is like my favorite from Germany. But if you could bring
Okay.
anyone at random out of the entire roster who's not currently there, who would you bring
Hmm.
on? If you could magically instill with
Mm.
them row skills.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to say John, and I'm blanking on his last name.
John.
He's a tread instructor
Oh, I don't know,
in
John.
the London studios. Hosky, I want to say Hosky, John Hosky.
Let me see if I am. I'm gonna bring
Um,
him up here real fast. I did not. I don't. I don't
yeah,
own
I
tread.
can.
I've never heard. I don't know John at all. So why would you bring John on?
So, well, he teaches um, running classes, and he does like this club theme where you're basically he's kind of like the British version of Alex Toussaint, um, and I just enjoy his personality. I enjoy his music selection. I think his personality would be good on the row. He doesn't get too deep into the technical aspects of things, but he keeps it kind of light and entertaining enough that um, you know, he would be good to kind of zone out and do like a 30-minute row.
Okay.
And I think
They.
it's Hoski.
Yeah, I had him on the screen here briefly. John Hoskins or Husky or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've
Yeah.
recently introduced live classes. Have you taken any of their live
Uh-huh.
classes?
You know what? I haven't.
Okay.
I'm not a live class guy. I am a whatever fits into my schedule. And, I'm not someone who gets up for like, oh, I want to be on here with all these other people
Yeah, yeah.
right now. What I love about Peloton is there's just so much different content, and I can hit it at a moment's notice and find basically whatever I want
Yeah.
whenever I want. But I will say they did just start with their premiere classes last week, and there's definitely a new energy that you can tell is coming from the instructors as a
Good.
result of them being able to interact with a live leaderboard
Yeah.
and see, oh, people are actually enjoying this and getting into this, and oh, this person's got 65 rows already in 2 months, or Because most of the classes, I think they filmed like in November or October, and then they didn't do any new classes for a
That
few
was my
months.
next
So
question is how's the catalog look? Because obviously for tread and bike, there's
mhm.
literally tens of thousands of yeah.
Thousands, yeah.
Are you kind of having to redo the same class again and again right now? I mean, obviously a year from now it'll be different, but right now are you having to churn a little bit?
Uh, a little. So they started out with about 95 classes, and that was kind of what there was for about 2 months. Let's say you're just like one of these people who only takes classes with one instructor, like you would chew through them pretty quickly.
Mm.
Um, it did allow and encourage you to kind of sample all the different instructors, which I think was probably helpful. I generally go to Adrian, Katie, and Alex the most. And I find with those three, they're pumping out new classes quickly enough. The one difference is you may not be able to find like the exact duration of class that you were looking
Oh,
for.
right.
And so you
Okay.
might have to like stack them
Yeah.
together. You know, if you wanted to do 30 minutes, you have to find two 15s or whatever. But other than that, they're keeping up pretty well.
And what about these scenics? Have you taken any of these scenic courses?
Well, so I did on Friday. So 2 days ago, I did. And the reason I did was not because I felt claustrophobic like you, Bob.
Yeah.
Instead, there is a pretty standard kind of rowing fitness test, and that's a sprint to 2,000
Oh,
kilometers
sort of
or
like the
2,000 meters.
FTP on the bike. Okay, yeah.
Yes. And so, as a challenge in one of these Facebook groups, everyone was going to do this 2,000-meter sprint at the beginning of the month, and then repeat it at the end of the month to kind of see if you improved or if you digressed or regressed. And so that one of the particular scenic rows was exactly 2,000 meters, and so it was like the one that everybody's taking to do this test. I didn't get to take in the scenery as much as I might have liked because I was just
Just go.
absolutely like, yes. Uh, but it was pretty cool. I mean, it was kind of similar to what you've seen with the bike and the
Yeah.
tread in terms of the scenic content.
Yeah, good. Good. So we've talked pretty much everything about it. I think the question now comes to you answered one question, that is probably row you would not advise to be your single piece of connected fitness equipment. Push that aside or use it as or not use it, but what do you think the value prop is at 31.95 for the row? Okay, way too high. I guess theoretically you could say way too low. I find that hard to believe, but what do you think?
No, it's obviously not too low. Um, I'll caveat my statement from earlier by just saying if you have some rowing background or whatever, then maybe you want to buy one of the better rowers on the market by all means. But if you're just like me and you've never rowed before, yeah, I think the tread is probably what I would advise as kind of your anchor piece of equipment, and then the row or the bike. Now, is it a value proposition? It depends. To me, if you think about it and you think about the cost of the Hydrow, what is the Hydrow right now? About 2,500.
I think it's in that area. They've been running sales
And
like
then they have
everybody,
the
but yeah,
Wave, which I
the
think is kind
wave.
of
It's under 2 grand. Yeah.
so if you already have a Peloton subscription and you want to get into rowing, you can buy the a Hydrow for either, let's just say it's 17 and $2,500. Um, but you're gonna have to pay, what is it, $50 a month? I think the Hydrow, it's either 39 or 49 a month, pretty quickly. And if you plan on keeping the piece of equipment for any period of time, you're going to spend the difference between the prices of the equipment and the additional Hydrow subscription. And so if you've already got a Peloton subscription, I think the price, while it's not ideal, while I would have liked to see it more in the $2,000 to $2,500 range, I think it's still worth getting over the Hydrow because you could still pay one subscription fee. The other thing I would say is, like the comment I made about it being about it adding exponential variety, because you're just adding sort of another horse to your stable.
Sure.
When you get another piece of equipment, look, that means I can run on the tread 2 or 3 days a week. I could get out either on a bike, whether it's the Peloton bike or outside, a couple days a week. I can row 2 or 3 times a week. And I think that experience is going to be one that people generally are going to be willing to stick with for longer than, like, I'm going to ride this bike 6 or 7 days a week, or I'm going to run on this tread 6 or 7. Basically, I'm going to use the same piece of equipment, as the only piece of connected fitness hardware I have. Those people that are able to do that, I have tremendous respect for. For me, I started to get bored with the bike after a couple years until the tread came out, and that really added a lot. And now the Row has added even more.
Sure.
I feel like the value of the Peloton subscription is worth exponentially more, even though the piece of hardware is overpriced.
Yeah, I've had the bike for 3 years, give or take, and I can relate. I'm desperate for a tread or desperate for a row. I'm desperate for a second piece of equipment. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I think it'd be helpful for other people other than just kind of a stand-up guy doing a review. The screen is 24 inches long. The seat is 12 inches wide. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Just to have a conversation with someone who's owned a row. And it's fantastic because you were not a row owner before this. But
No.
that's why I enjoyed speaking with you, because I'm always and we've talked about our Hydrow experience, but I'm always in the stable of, I've been riding the bike for 3 years, nearly every day for 3 years. I don't want to say I'm tired of it. I still enjoy it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I've already done my ride for today. I'm good to go. I'm going to do my ride for tomorrow, but I would love to either the tread or the row. And so your feedback and kind of a longer form content, not being a stand-up reviewer, is very much appreciated. So before we take off today, I give you the opportunity. And first off, I do want to ask you, well, I'll give you the opportunity to open forum to say anything you want about the row or whatever. If you want to kind of, I don't want to say plug, but advise people on where they can find content, like on your Facebook groups. If you want to direct them that, you can do that. But I'll hand it over to you. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So just quickly, one thing I'll say is a lot of people, I think, buy the Row or buy a rowing machine with the idea that it is going to increase the amount of work they're doing with their arms. And that's just not true. A lot of people have been very surprised, and I think have even struggled to wrap their minds around the concept of needing to use your legs as the primary driver on the Row. And so it is, the machine is going to complement what you're doing, whether it's on the tread or on the bike, with your legs, but it also involves significant core work. And so if you're looking to either add to your cardio experience, like we talked about before, in a low impact way, it's a great machine to have, but it is not going to suddenly build up your arm strength. So just go into it with that in mind. The people that have put up the best output numbers or the best whatever average watts are the people that are pushing the hardest with their legs.
Oh, okay.
And it's been difficult for people to kind of wrap their mind around that. There's no resistance knob that you could turn to make it harder. You literally have to just push harder with your legs. As far as other things to talk about, I would say, not everyone's a Facebook person. Not everybody's a Peloton group, Facebook group person. There is a great group. It's called the Peloton Row group, a Row crew, I believe, on Facebook, though, where sort of the early adopters of the Row have congregated, and it's been a tremendous source to share information, to share experiences. These people are organizing group rows and
Oh, that's fun.
challenges and whatnot. And so I think, when you first get a piece of equipment and there's not as much content on the platform, you can go to a place like this and it sort of enriches and enhances the experience. And so anyone who's either got a row already or maybe interested in getting one, I would suggest look for Peloton Row Crew on Facebook, and people there are more than happy to answer questions for people that are thinking about it or tell you their honest opinion. So that's a great resource for folks that are interested.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shaq. And Shaq, I've got your on the screen here. We have your Twitter handle, which you tweet about lots of stuff. Peloton's not your main bag. It's just part of the big bag you have. It's kind of like the only thing that I kind of do on Twitter. On the thumbnail, I think I'll have your rider name, which is WithAnUrgency, right?
That's right.
That's fantastic. I see you now in the feed. I have the beta feed. I see you every so often doing.
Yeah,
You're
that
doing all
thing's pretty
three, which
cool,
kills
isn't
me.
it? Yeah, the feed is cool. The
I
feed is a good
I was
feature. I like
skeptic at
that.
first, but then I just started using it. And now it's like I want to know who people. I want to know if they've been working out. I need to keep track of them. I'm gonna move them a little bit. Okay. Yeah. The feed. Initially skeptical. Thumbs up for the feed. I think it can get better, but I agree with you. The feed's good stuff. But I appreciate you sitting down, talking with us. Hopefully, some people will get some value out of this. I know I did. And it's still going to be a toss-up, tread or row. But if Barry can get this tread out, the row will be third, but the tread will be second.
Yeah, Bob, it's been my pleasure. I would tell you, as much as I love the row, the tread, especially the Tread Plus, it's just a magical machine. I will never give mine up. But it's been a pleasure being here. Good to talk to you, buddy. And I look forward to doing it again sometime.
All right. Thanks, Shaq. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.